So, hello, good afternoon. So, kamusta tayo dyan? Ah, eh, Another episode of Talking to My Tablet daw. Natin. So, what we'll be discussing for today is yung counterpart ng tension, which is yung compression. So, if tension is pulling na forces, yung compression is yung push. So, parang gusto mo nga na na i-compress yung material mo to shorten its length. However, unlike nung tension, meron tayong kailangang i-account for sa compression design. And just like what I mentioned last meeting, sorry, Dighay. So it has something to do with buckling. So nagbabuckle ngayon yung columns natin when subjected under compression. And yung buckling can come in two ways. So what you are seeing here is an example of a global na buckling. So it has something to do with the unbraced length of your beam. Then magkakaroon din tayo ng tinatawag na localized buckling. So meron kang tinatawag na flange local buckling na kung saan or rather flange local buckling, talagang local buckling lang talaga. So within your cross section, nagkakaroon ka ng buckling. So this is yung global na buckling natin. So, ang ina-analyze natin ay yung column as a whole. Actually, hindi lang siya column. So, halimbawa sa inyong truss system, so for example, you have a truss system right there. And let me just admit lang yung mga classmates nyo into the meeting. Yep. Then, balik tayo doon. So, if titignan natin yung ating truss na system. So, for example, meron kang downwards na forces right there. Then, say na nandito yung reaction forces natin. So, what you'll notice once you do your structural analysis is that yung nasa bottom, sorry, kailangan ko na ibang color coding. So, itong in green, right here, will be under tension. However, yung mga webs in particular, these webs right here will be subjected under compression. So hindi lang isolated sa column yung compressive forces natin. So pwede rin siya nasa truss members. And sa project ninyo, once you indulge yourself, so natapos tayo dun sa matrix structural analysis, pero I hope na may progress tayo dun into getting your design forces, your internal forces that were the result of your design forces. So kapag nandun na tayo sa analysis na part, then na-evaluate na natin, okay, ano yung mga peak forces o ano yung mga internal forces that we need to consider for our elements, for your, ayun nga, yung mga task elements natin, yung mga beam elements natin. Pero in particular, magagamit natin to on our truss elements that are subjected under compression. So yan yung ilo-look forward nyo. So I hope na as we walk through dito sa chapter, sa part ng design na to, you'll be accustomed with dealing with AISC Chapter E and AISC Chapter E and B. So dalawa siya. And yung Chapter E, mahati siya into two more specific sub-provisions. So you have E3 and E7. So what I'm discussing right now is yung E3 na part. So parang sinasabi natin na yung buckling ay nangyayari on the column as a whole. So ito is column as a whole. So it's mainly dependent on what's called your length. Tapos meron kang tinatawag na effective length factor. You have your gross area. So yan yung mga i-account for natin later on. However, meron ka pang kailangan pang i-consider din dun sa E7. So for example, you have a wide flange section that is subjected under compression right there, or even angled section. So pag sinelect mo siya as your web, so pag sinubject mo siya under compression, So locally, what happens? So i-zoom out ko lang ng konti. Lakihan ko lang para malinaw yung illustration. So, if sinubject natin ito under compression, so meron kang compressive stress right there. Through plate buckling theory, malalaman natin na meron din siyang tendency to buckle within. So, nagbabuckle siya na ganito. And kapag nagbuckle siya na ganyan, magkakaroon ng instability sa ating system. So, ang daming segue no bago i-discuss yung Euler buckling force. So, i-discuss muna natin nga yung stability. So, if we're going to say stability, we're determining whether yung system natin is stable or not after the application of forces. So, meron tayong stable equilibrium. So, assuming na in equilibrium lahat ng mga forces and using those forces, nag-evaluate tayo ng displacements, it is as if you're imagining a ball over a concave surface. So, meron kang ball dito, then, supposedly, ninudge mo yung ball uphill. Uphill. Then, syempre, you need to have force para ma-force siya na to move from one position to another. And once you let go of that force, ang tendency is that yung ball mo ay magro-roll down the plane and babalik siya eventually dun sa original position mo. So yun yung tinatawag na stable equilibrium. So key example of this is if yung forces mo is within the elastic limit. So once you let go of the forces, it will go back on its original form. That is stable equilibrium. Then meron din tayong tinatawag na neutral equilibrium. So neutral equilibrium, if we're going to pursue yung analogy with the ball, so that ball is on a flat plane. Rather than a concave na plane, you have a flat plane right there. Then suppose nag-apply ka ng force to nudge it either left or right. And once i-let go mo yung force na yon, hindi na siya babalik dun sa original position mo. So yung hindi pagbalik niya sa original position is synonymous with, for example, plastic deformation. So kapag nag-exceed na sa sa elastic limit, ibig sabihin magkakaroon ka na ng permanent strain. So yung permanent strain na yon is reflected in your neutral equilibrium. So yung buckling has something to do with the third type of equilibrium, which is yung unstable equilibrium. Sa unstable equilibrium, parang due to the effect ng buckling mo, so dahil nag-buckle siya, so for example, ni-nudge mo na-nudge mo yung ball out from its parang precariously stable na position, kahit na wala na siyang force, tuloy-tuloy na yung pagdausdos niya downhill. So parang katumbas lang yan na pag napagtripan tayo ng mga barkada natin na halimbawa ay biglang pinatupi yung tuhod natin. So dahil biglang tumupi yung tuhod natin, minsan madadapa tayo. Parang we can no longer stay standing still. So ganoon yung nangyari. Nagtuloy-tuloy na yung collapse kapag na-reach yung unstable equilibrium. And one instances na nagkakaroon ng unstable equilibrium is kapag nagkaroon ng buckling. Ibig sabihin, kahit na i-let go mo yung compressive force mo, tuloy-tuloy na yung collapse mechanism mo. So ito yung iiwasan natin na mangyari. So ito yung kailangan nating i-account for. Whether locally, na magkakaroon ng buckling within your cross-section, or globally, yung mismong element mo, yung nagbabuckle as a whole. So yan yung i-cover natin under compression design. And yung local buckling na yan will be covered by section E7. So meron tayong section E3, meron tayong section E7. So para lang may idea tayo kung anong itsura ng provisions natin, so this is chapter E on your AISC. So we have here a list of general provisions. And unlike nung tension, na depende pa kung anong limit state yung magiging natin, under strength factor natin, for compression, it will always be 0.9. So yan na palagi magiging phi natin. So meron tayong nominal strength na P sub n. Then ang kailangan natin makuha nga yung design compressive strength na product ng under strength factor natin at sa anong nominal strength natin. So yung nominal strength natin will be determined on the succeeding provisions. So sa succeeding provision, so merong guide somehow for us to distinguish ano yung kailangan natin i-consider when designing her cross-section. So depende kung anong limit state and depende kung anong cross-section. So para lang familiar tayo. So if meron tayong wide flange section, so parang sinabi lang, if walang slender elements. So ang meaning ng slender elements ay walang elements within your cross-section. So halimbawa ay flange or web or for angle na section, yung legs. Yung legs, yung flange, yung web ay walang tendency to buckle locally. So yun yung meaning ng without slender elements. Kapag sinabi mo na slender element siya, so within your cross-section, there are certain segments or certain elements, halimbawa flange, o yung so parang naulit na naman, yung tatlo na naman, na magkaroon ng buckling. Ibig sabihin, may slender elements ka doon. If merong slender elements, you'll be referred to section E7. So kung titingnan nga natin, meron kang section E3, sabi daw, buckling, so FB. Tapos yung torsional buckling naman ay yung TB natin. For slender elements, mapapansin natin, nadagdagan na. So meron ka ng local buckling, meron ka ng full buckling, tapos meron ka ng torsional buckling. Tapos kung titingnan pa natin under section, so meron kang channel na section or T na section or even unsymmetrical na cross sections. So meron kang chapter na kailangan tingnan. So you will be referred to these subchapter. So ito yung una nating titignan. So alam natin kung anong type ng cross section, and once na na-evaluate natin whether merong slender elements or not, ituturo tayo kung saan yung titignan natin. So ito pala, flexural buckling pala yung FB natin. So nandito yung notation natin. So mamaya explain ko bakit flexural buckling yung tawag doon. In general, across all compressive elements, meron tayong ine-evaluate na tinatawag na effective length or L sub C. So pag nung kung face to face to, nag-joke na ako na si Tony my boy, so LC signs yung natin. So meron kang effective length na kailangang i-account for. So ito yung ultimately na magde-define ng capacity ng beam mo, kung anong stress yung kaya niya. So yung L sub C na yan, effective length mo na makukuha by multiplying yung length ng member mo, nung column mo, or nung web mo, or any element within your structural system that is subjected under compression. So meron kang unbraced length, tapos on top of that, kapag pinag-multiply mo yung dalawa, makukuha mo yung effective length, and that is to be divided by the radius of gyration. So ito yung dahilan bakit isa pa sino-source out talaga natin yung radius of gyration to get yung slenderness ratio, yung L sub C over R. So magagamit natin siya down the line in our. So mapapansin natin, meron siyang particular na limits. So sinabi daw, if yung slenderness mo is less than some factor na ide-derive natin later on, ito yung gagamitin natin sa pagkuha ng critical stress. So meron ng definition ng critical stress rather than talking about yielding stress or talking about ultimate stress sa compression, meron lang tayong critical stress. So depende siya sa slenderness ratio natin kung ano yung magiging critical stress ng buong element mo. ng buong structural elements subjected under tension. And madalas, hindi natin dinidiscuss yung torsional na part. We'll be skipping through this part right here. So merong mga special provisions for single angle. So meron ka lang updated na LC over R right there. Then you use the same formula to get yung F critical. And as we roll through, so meron ka ng section E7. So ito yung tinutukoy natin na if yung meron kang within your cross section na slender elements. So ibang usapan yung with pag element kasi parang na-interchange natin siya sa structural element or yung part ng cross section mo. Pag dito sinabi lang na slender elements, ang tinutukoy nito ay within the cross section. So pag meron kang slender elements, nandun pa rin yung F critical. Pero ang nag-iba, instead na A gross, yung i-multiply mo sa F critical para makuha yung nominal strength, meron na tayong makukuha or kailangang computin na tinatawag na effective area. Kasi dahil may nag-buckle na certain parts ng cross-section, it's no longer taking part in the action of resisting yung compressive force natin. Kaya meron kang tinatawag na effective area. So ito yung mga chapters natin under AISC. Now, bakit flexural buckling siya? It has something to do with the derivation of Leonhard Euler. So meron kasi siyang meron kasi ngang na-observe dati na if halimbawa may ruler kayo dyan sa bahay, then in-attempt nyo na i-compress, mapapansin nyo kahit na compression yung force natin, nagbe-bend siya. Hindi naman natin siya ina-apply ng bending moment, pero nagbe-bend siya due to the compressive force. So yun yung gustong alamin ni Euler, na ano yung force na nagko-cause for your compressive element or compressive structural element na mag-buckle. So itong buckling na ito. So sinabi lang na ang initial nating assumption ay dito, it's allowed to rotate and it's allowed to move along the vertical. So, okay. At the same time, meron kang compressive force dyan. So, expect natin, kung may compressive force tayo dyan, kahit saan man mag-cut tayo dito, yung compressive force na makukuha natin, na internal na axial force na makukuha natin, will be compression. So, towards the plane palagi. And you will expect na yung reaction force dito ay equal lang sa applied na force dyan. So, in equilibrium siya. Pero, nagbabakel siya. So, paano natin ma-determine yung force na magkakos nito? Si Euler, ang ginawa niya na formulation ay simulan natin with the buckled state. So, sabihin natin na wala tayong pake kung paano siya na-initiate. Ang i-analyze natin kapag na-initiate na yung buckling, anong force yung nagko-cause doon. And remember na si Euler din yung nag-derive ng equation na ginagamit natin for the double integration method, which is yung Euler-Bernoulli beam formulation. So familiar na tayo dito na m over EI is equal to the second derivative of your elastic curve. And kung gusto mo makuha yung deflection, kailangan mo mag-integrate twice. And that method is what's called double integration method. So, meron kang moment na equal to the flexural rigidity ng element natin multiplied by the second derivative of your deflected shape. So, yung elastic curve function natin, and kulang nga ito ng dx squared. So, d squared y over dx squared. Now, sa Euler buckling, iba yung gagawin natin. Sa Euler buckling, we focus on the bend shape. So sa bend shape natin, take into account natin na okay, mukhang sa midspan yung maximum deflection. So meron kang maximum deflection y na nakuha dyan dahil dun sa buckle. So ito yung buckling state, mag-cut tayo dun. Nag-cut tayo dun, may na-expose tayo internal axial force na N. And kapag nag-sum of forces tayo along along the vertical to be equal to 0, what you'll get is ito ay equal and opposite lang nito. So, N is equals to P. And after knowing that, ay meron ka pang isang equilibrium equation na kailangang i-account for. Remember that they no longer have the same line of transmission. So, meron na silang perpendicular distance. Actually, defined siya by Y. And that Y, along with your forces, represents a couple. Couple that is causing a moment. And yung moment na yon, yung Py. So, ginawa lang natin ay instead na M, dun sa Euler-Bernoulli beam natin, yung compressive force natin multiplied by the maximum deflection, yung ginamit natin. Yung negative P times Y. So, i-rearrange lang natin in a way na lahat ay nasa left-hand side ng equation. Then, ang ginawa pa natin further ay dinivide natin both sides by EI. So, na-isolate natin to, yung second derivative. Tapos meron kang P over EIY is equals to 0. And we also define na kung gusto natin na may masolve tayo dito, recalling your CE24, i-assume natin to be equal to K squared. I-assume natin to be equal to K squared. Para makuha na natin, remember from your CE24, your formulation has to be kinda like this para may makuha ka na general solution. So, ang ginawa lang K squared Y, sorry. So, ang ginawa lang natin para makakuha tayo ng general solution on this ay kailangan nating i-compare side by side equation. So, itong Y double prime, ito naman siya, wala naman ng kasama. Yung kasama ng Y is yung P over EI, which is yung K squared. So, kung kukunin natin yung K, ito ay square root of P over EI. So, yan yung magiging part ng general solution natin. And yung general solution natin is this one right here. So, it has to be the sum of A cosine of Kx plus and B sine of Kx. So, yung sum nitong dalawa, yung general solution natin. Pero, syempre, general solution siya, hindi pa natin alam kung anong value ng B value ng A and yung value ng B. And at the same time, since inassume natin na yung K ay equal to square root of P over EI, lagay lang natin siya dyan. So, meron kayong square root of P over EI dyan. So, we have here yung general solution. And para makakuha tayo ng values ng A and B, nag-impose lang tayo ng boundary condition. So, babalikan natin itong beam. Hindi siya pwedeng mag-deflect along this direction. Hindi siya pwedeng mag-deflect along this direction. Pero pwede siyang mag-rotate. So, ang nire-restrict mo lang is y is equals to 0 at x equals 0 and at x equals L. So, yun yung dalawa nating boundary conditions. So, at x equals 0, y is equals to 0, at x equals L, y is equals to 0. Yan yung gagamitin natin kasi pwede mo i-substitute x equals 0 dito at saka dito. Tapos alam dapat natin na y is equals to 0. So ang ma-isolate lang natin yung a and b. May masosolve tayo doon. And kung at x equals L, y is equals to 0, may masosolve din tayo doon. So, i-attempt natin yung una. X equals 0, y is equals to 0. So therefore 0 ito. Itong cosine of 0 will be equal to 1. Yung sine of 0 will be equal to 0. So, mawawala itong buong term na to. So, ang natira is a times 1 being equal to 0. And what we'll get is yung a natin na supposedly constant na i-determine natin as part of the specific solution, yung complete solution natin, equal lang pala siya kay 0. Now, yung important na boundary condition natin is actually yung second one. So, na-eliminate na natin yung A. So, ang natira na lang, ano kaya yung value ng B? Yun yung nagbabagang tanong natin. So at x equals L, wala ka daw deflection. So alam natin na 0 ito. Then at x equals L, sinubstitute ko yung x dito, meron tayong L dito. And kung sasabihin natin na B ay equal to 0, eh naglolokohan lang tayo na hindi wala ka naman palang makukuha na specific solution dito. The entire solution process will be trivial. So, i-dispermit natin to na this has to be a non-zero value. And para ngayon masatisfy that y is equals to 0, kailangan itong sign na to yung dapat maging equal to 0. And we know na there are certain values na kapag kinuha mo yung sign niya, ay magiging equal to 0. So what are those values? So meron tayong 0, meron tayong pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and so on until infinity. As long as it's a multiple of pi, yung sign ng function natin ay, so pi multiplied by some natural number, yung sign natin, ng ano na yun, value na yun, will be equal to 0. So hindi natin i-account for to kasi parang ayaw nga natin maging trivial. So ito yung i-account for natin, yung lowest number apart from 0 na pwede natin gamitin. So meron kang pi is equals to square root of p over ei times L. So ito siya, yun. Ngayon, ang magiging concern natin, ano ngayon yung magiging value ng P? Gusto natin i-isolate yung P kasi gusto natin malaman ano yung Euler buckling force na necessary para mangyari yung buckling nga. So, i-rearrange lang natin yung terms, square natin both sides, then i-isolate natin yung P on the left-hand side ng equation and ito yung matitira. So, meron kang pi squared times EI over L squared. This is what's called the Euler buckling force. So kaya nga siya flexural buckling because it has something to do with the flexural properties uh, of your elements, your structural element. But we go further than that kasi napansin natin na okay, bakit L over R yung ginamit natin? Itong I, pwede nating i-equate to be equal to area times the radius of gyration. Recall from your 101 and to some extent your 102 na radius of gyration is evaluated to be equal to the square root of I over area. Your moment of inertia over yung area. So, sinubstitute lang natin siya dito. Bakit natin siya kailangan substitute? Kasi magiging convenient ngayon, okay, may R squared, may L squared. Lipat ko to sa denominator. So what we have here is pi squared times your modulus of elasticity times your area divided by the square of your slenderness ratio. So yun yung Euler buckling force natin. So kaya napansin natin talagang pambungad pa lang, section E3 pa lang, pinapakuha na sa atin yung slenderness ratio. Kasi siya yung magde-determine kung ano yung magkukos for your entire structural element to buckle. But kind of remember na itong nakuha natin na solution, in particular dito, ay considering na pin and pin. It's very specific on your boundary condition dahil ito yung ginamit natin na boundary condition. Pwede siyang magbago kasi hindi naman necessarily na pin yung dulo niya. Pwede ring fix. Pwede ring free. Free end yung mako-compute natin. So, before we expand on that, discuss din natin a little bit yung tinatawag na sige, may na pala. Okay. So, yung Euler buckling stress natin, ginawa lang natin kung yung stress ay force over area. So, dinivide lang natin yung Euler buckling force natin with the area. So, ang natira ay ito, pi squared E over the square of your slenderness ratio. So yan yung Euler buckling stress. Sa code provisions, ito kasi yung pinapahanap sa atin, yung Euler buckling stress rather than yung Euler buckling force. Magagamit mo lang yung Euler buckling force kapag nandun na tayo sa combined axial embedding if we're going to discuss about moment magnification. So, hindi naman natin talaga sinasantabi. Parang for the context lang later on ng combined action, pero for compression alone, ito lang yung kailangan natin, yung Euler buckling stress. So, for example, meron tayong 14 by 99 na cross-section. Pinapahanap sa atin ano yung Euler buckling force. And kailangan natin ng material. A992 steel daw siya. So, what we have is E. So, for steel, please remember na for English units is 29,000 KSI. Now, you have gross area na pwede natin i-source kay table 1. Yung R sub Y, pwede din nating ma-source from table 1. Dalawa yung radius of gyration pala natin. Take note. Meron kang Rx and meron kang Ry. Sa context ng table 1, Rx, Ix, or yung x-axis doon would represent yung strong axis. So yung kung saan may moment of inertia ka na pinakamalaki. Tapos meron kang weak axis kung saan yung moment of inertia ay yung pinakamaliit. So kung dinivide mo both by A, then kinuha mo yung square root, mas malaki yung Rx kaysa kay Ry. Now, bakit kailangan kinukuha natin yung maliit na Ry? Remember, you have yung slenderness ratio. Kung malaki itong denominator natin, liliit yung buong term. Pero kung lumiliit yung denominator natin, lalaki itong buong term. So kapag malaki yung buong term na to, liliit yung Euler buckling force. Ibig sabihin, you only need smaller amount of force to initiate yung local buckling. Unlike kung malaki yung R, that will ultimately reflect into requiring stronger force to initiate yung buckling na process. So, out of the two, so assuming naman na equal yung effective length niya, yung nasa numerator ay constant lang, so yung denominator yung magiging concern natin. Kaya ang finish out talaga natin dito yung R sub Y. So, ang pinapahanap sa atin, yung F sub E. So, yung F sub E, pi squared. E. Tapos yung length is 20 feet. Pero remember, 10-dimensional value yung slenderness ratio natin. So kung in inches yung radius of gyration natin, kailangan in inches din yung length natin. So yung 20, kinonvert natin to inches, 20 feet, kinonvert natin to inches. So meron tayong 240 inches divided by 3.71, yung nakuha natin na R sub Y from our table 1-1. Square mo yon, yun yung pang de-divide mo rito. And what we have is 58.39 KSI. So, parang if you were to compare that side by side with the yielding stress, parang it's giving you an impression na okay, parang we know na kung sino yung mas maliit out of the two, siya yung nauuna. So we kind of anticipate na okay, based dito sa na-compute natin, mauna yung yielding kaysa kay buckling. Well, in fact, that is not the case for in this scenario, because the reality in particular about your wide flange section, particularly hot rolled na cross section, is that merong mangyayari na tinatawag na residual stresses. Merong present na residual stresses. And it has something to do with the cooling process. Suppose out of the forge yung wide flange section natin. So lahat and in-air dry mo siya. So pinapasingaw mo yung init. So the yung mga area na very exposed sa hangin, mabilis mawala yung init. So there are some areas that will cool faster than the others. Ano yung mabagal na mag-cool? Yung elbows dito sa part na ito. Kasi lesser yung yung surface na exposed sa air, So sila yung nahuhuli dun sa cooling process. And dahil sila yung nahuli dun sa cooling process, it is as if na gusto pa nitong mag-shrink. Gusto pa nito na mag-shrink. And dahil may kagustuhan pa siya mag-shrink compared to its surroundings, nagbi-build up ngayon yung tinatawag na residual stresses. And scientists have determined a clear estimate of the residual stresses na nabubuo within your cross section. It is 30% of that of your yield stress. So 0.3 times F sub y. So ano ngayon yung nangyayari dun sa mga, particularly dito sa mga siko na to. Suppose niload natin siya. So meron kang strain, meron kang stress. Pero nangyari is once na-reach mo yung stress na equal to 70% of the yielding stress, idadagdag mo tong 30% na to, so 100% na actually yung stress na nararanasan dun sa elbow mo. So may nauuna nang nag-yield. So pag nauna na yung yielding, ibig sabihin hindi na proportional yung stress dun sa strain na nararanasan nung siko natin. So ito, nagde-deform siya faster than its surroundings. So on its whole, so kung titingnan natin yung buong cross-section, it is as if meron kang early onset ng non-linear na property. Nga lang, uh, naalala natin na yung ating Euler-Buckling equation has something to do with your modulus of elasticity. Pero dahil non-linear na yung relationship ng stress and strain, hindi na siya equal to your elastic modulus pagdating dito sa part na ito. So ang determine is we instead impose that there exists what's called tangent modulus. So kung ano man yung tangent line dito sa sa curve na ito, depende sa amount ng strain or depende sa amount ng stress. So may tangent line ka dyan. So kunin mo yung slope nun. So yun yung magiging tangent modulus natin dyan. And simplifications sa code provision, kung gusto mo kasi siyang i-apply sa code, yung existence ng tangent modulus, it has something to do now with what's called stiffness reduction factor. So nababawasan kasi yung E, nagiging less than 29,000 yung E natin. So dahil sa tangent dahil dun sa residual stresses natin and early onset ng yielding. So meron kang tau sub B na kailangan tignan kay table 4-14. So yung table 4-14 ay makikita natin. Yeah. So ito yung mga table 4 natin. Marami to. I hope hindi mag-crash. Pag sa tablet kasi ito na nagka-crash yung natin. So meron kang 4-11, then 4-13 actually. I stand corrected. So this is 4-13. This is your table for the stiffness reduction factor. Remember na yung stiffness reduction factor is for the sole purpose of getting your tangent modulus. Yung tangent modulus kasi, yung mag-alter ngayon kung ano yung Euler-Buckling stress or Euler-Buckling stress na kailangang ma-reach yung member mo para mag-initiate yung buckling on its own. So paano gamitin itong table na to? Meron siyang dalawang matrix. So meron kang, pwede pala magsulat dito. Teka. Undo. Walang undo. Ayan, merong undo. Okay. So meron tayong yield stress as our columns. So meron ka iba't ibang yield stress. So meron kang 35 KSI, 36 KSI. So yun yung A36 steel natin. 46 KSI. Ito yung sa typical na buckle natin. Tapos 50 KSI, 60 KSI, and 70 KSI. So yan yung mga columns natin. And if we're talking about rows naman, yung row would represent yung stress. So yung stress na nararanasan ng buong cross-section natin. So halimbawa ay and to get yung stress na nararanasan ng cross-section natin under the LRFD provisions, yung factored load natin, kailangan natin i-divide with the cross-sectional area. So, factored load divided by cross-sectional area. Then after that, depende kung anong stress, yield stress yung gagamitin natin, makukuha natin yung stiffness reduction factor. So, for example, nakuha natin na yung A36 steel na cross-section mo is already having a 24 KSI na force. So meron kang 24 KSI na, 24 KSI na stress. So A3060 lang ginamit natin. So yung magiging stiffness reduction niya ay according sa LRFD provision, so LRFD naman ginagamit natin, is 0.889. So yun yung kailangan i-multiply mo sa 29,000 para makuha mo yung tangent modulus. Ang gagamitin mo pang-update ng Euler-Buckling na formula natin. So, instead na E lang siya, magiging E sub T. So, magbabago ngayon yung Euler-Buckling stress natin as a result. So, hindi talaga sure na mag-a-adjust nga ulit siya. So, instead na 68.39 yan, mababawasan na yan. So, kung halimbawa 80% yung nabawas, so 0.889, di ba? Yung nakuha natin from the given scenario. Wait lang ha. Tumating ata na ano. So 0.889 times 29,000. So meron kang 25,000 KS. Adjust ko lang konti. Yung 68.39 na lang pala. Yung i-multiply ko sa 0.889. So meron kang 60 KSI na lang. So pwedeng bumaba pa lalo yung inyong buckling stress. Give me 1 minute. Kukunin na ako tubig. Sorry, kumuha lang ng tubig. So, yung delivery ka ng tubig. Now, try natin ulit this time. So, gusto natin ay, so, we're arguing on the fact na, halimbawa, ay yung naranasan na stress ng buong column mo ay, tas A992 steel siya, di ba? So, A992 steel. Ang naranasan na stress ng column mo, suppose, halimbawa, umabot ng 40 KSI. 40 KSI is still less than the yield stress. Okay? So kung 40 KSI siya, balikan natin yung table. So 40 KSI Okay, 40 KSI right here. Yan yung current na state ng stress. We're using grade 50 na steel. So Fy is equals to 50 KSI. Makukuha natin na stiffness reduction factor ay 0.640. So, ano lang, i-ando ko lang kasi supposedly PDF copy yan. Nagugulat ako, pwedeng sulatan pala yon. So, nakuha natin na stiffness reduction factor from our scenario, yung PU over AG na equal to 40 KSI, which we know to be still less than F sub Y. Ang nakuha natin na tau sub B ay 0.64. And yung 0.64 na yun, ang gagawin mo lang ay imumultiply siya dito. Imumultiply mo lang siya sa nakuha mo. So yung 0.64, imumultiply mo sa sa 68.39. So 0.64, tapos imumultiply mo sa imumultiply natin sa 68.39. So ang makukuha natin na F sub E as a result is 43.77 KSI. So, unlike nung kanina na 68.39 KSI siya, dahil sa stiffness reduction na nangyari due to the na-initiate ng residual stresses natin, napaaga ngayon or kinailangan mo na lang ng mas konti na stress para ma-initiate yung buckling. And mauuna na siya sa F sub Y natin. So, yung F sub Y natin, 50 KSI. Pero with the given state of stress ng member natin and accounting for dun sa extra na residual stresses natin, nakuha natin ay mas maaga na yung buckling kaysa sa yielding. And we can push this further. So what if i-try natin nasa 45 KSI na yung PU over AG natin? So anong mangyari dun sa PU over AG natin na part? 45 KSI right here. Tapos stiffness reduction factor 0.360. Yun na lang yung natin. Yung ating stiffness reduction factor. So 0.36 na lang. Kanina 0.64 naging 0.36. So ano nangyari ngayon? So meron kang nakuha na 0.36. And kung minultiply natin ulit siya dun sa Euler buckling stress natin, so 0.36 times 68.39. So kailangan mo na lang na F sub E ay 24.62 KSI na already less than na agad dun sa PU over AG. So at this stress, nag-initiate na yung buckling. So, yun yung interaction ngayon na nangyari due to the residual stresses. So, hindi constant yung buckling stresses natin. Dahil dun sa existence ng residual stresses natin, magbabago ngayon yung modulus of elasticity natin in the form of tangent modulus. And kung nagbago and nag-reduce yung ating modulus of elasticity, magre-reduce din consequently yung ating Euler buckling stress. So napapaaga ngayon yung buckling natin. So ito yung epekto ni residual stress sa ating cross-section. So yun yung ganap dito. So yun nga yung procedure. So get yung force over area. So kailangan mo i-source yung gross area nito. Tapos you use table 4-13. Makukuha mo yung tau sa B. Ma-update mo yung Euler buckling stress. So yun yung unang implications nung natin na hindi constant si Euler buckling stress. It's very dynamic. Depende sa loading na ina-apply natin. Now, we have another implication. Paano kung iniba natin yung boundary conditions? This is the same na column natin na magkakaroon ng buckling, pero we take into account yung mga boundary conditions. So, meron kang boundary condition ngayon na panibago. You have yung free end, x equals 0, Tapos, ina-allow mo yung displacement, deflection dito. Ina-allow mo rin yung rotation doon sa buckled shape mo. Tapos meron ka ring fix na end dito. So at x equals L, ina-allow mo, hindi mo ina-allow yung rotation. So hindi siya pwedeng mag-rotate. Hindi rin siya pwedeng mag-deflect. So i-revisit natin ngayon yung general solution natin. Yung general solution natin ay ito pa rin. So A cosine times cosine of square root of P over EI times X plus B times sine square root of P over EI times X. So yan yung general solution natin. Gamitin lang natin yung mga boundary conditions. If kinuha natin yung derivative nung nung y, makukuha natin yung slope. So yung slope, ito naman yung function niya. So sa unang equation natin, at x equals L, palitan ko lang to. Ayusin lang natin yung kalat. So, meron kang at x equals L, theta is equals to 0. So, meron kang A over P over EI, tas meron ka rito na sine of L. So, meron kang sine of P over EI times X. Right there. Tapos, sa kabila naman, meron kang slope ito Okay. Ayusin natin. This is minus cosine of square root of P over EI times L. Wala ngayon tayong i-eliminate dito. Pero nakuha natin na information ay nakuha natin na information na natin to. Or i-redo natin. I-redo lang. Sige, para lang malinaw. Hindi lang show and tell. So, ito yung general solution natin. And dalawang boundary condition. So, baguhin lang natin ng konti para lang malinaw siguro. Ito yung x natin. So, this will be x is equals to 0. Alam natin na hindi pwede yung slope. Hindi din pwede yung deflection. Tapos, at x equals L ay non-zero yung slope. Non-zero yung deflection. So, if you were to imagine yung deform shape niya, ganito. Ganyan yung magiging buckled shape niya. So, yan yung i-check natin sa ating general solution. So, yung theta ay yung first derivative nung ating function. So, meron kang negative A square root of P over EI times sine of P over EI times X plus B cos kalimutan ko yung sa loob. So P over EI times cosine of bakit hanggang dun lang? So meron kang cosine of square root of P over EI times X. So yan yung ating slope na function. So kung gagamitin natin yung general solution natin at X is equals to 0. So Y is equals to 0. Substitute lang natin. So, meron kang A cosine of square root of P over EI times 0 plus B sine of square root of P nabibitin yung radicand ko over EI times 0. This one is already equal to 0. So, what we are left with is A cosine, or rather, A times 1 is equals to 0. So, therefore, A ay equal to 0. So, yan yung unang nakuha natin. And kung i-apply natin yung second boundary condition, okay, si A pala ay equal to 0. So wala na dapat, ito, kahit pa i-substitute natin yung 0 dito, times 0. So meron ka ngayong times 0 dito. Tapos, meron pa tayong, ano nga ito? Meron pa tayong equals to 0. So dapat yan daw ay equal to 0. Pero take note, this can never be equal to 0. And dapat ito ay hindi equal to 0. Or else magiging trivial yung ating solution. So kung naging trivial yung ating solution, naku, sayang yung ano natin, tinrabaho natin on that. So para ma-satisfy natin, kailangan daw ay hmm, teka. Mhm. Mukhang baliktad ang aking boundary conditions eh. Sige, baliktarin natin. Mas may makukuha pala tayo kung ah, dito ang x. So at x equals 0, hindi pwedeng ano, meron ka mga non-zero na value at x equals L, ito ko lang to, x equals L, wala kang slope, wala ka ring deflection. So, itry natin siya. So, meron kang 0 is equals to A cosine of P over EI times X plus B sine of P over EI times X times L. Yan kasi yung ano natin. And nami-mistake ko palagi yung radical. So, ayusin ko lang. So, meron kang ganyan. And meron kang ganyan times L is equals to 0. So, yan yung unang equation natin. Yung second equation natin ay 0 is equals to negative A over P over EI times sine of square root of P over EI times X. Then, meron kang plus B square root of P over EI times cosine of P over EI times X. Yan yung ating dalawang equation. So we need to solve for the value of A and the value of B. Ngayon, how can we do that? So sa una pa lang, kailangan natin gawin itong certain operation na to na meron kang B over A. Then, mhm. Sige, solve muna natin yung B or rather yung A. A being equal to, so mag-perform lang ng certain operation. So B times tangent of square root of P over EI times L. So yan yung value ng A natin na isa-substitute natin on to the second equation. So meron kang B tangent of square root of P over EI times L. O ano, but X pa din to. So, dapat L na ito. L and L. Tapos, meron ka pang sine of square root of P over EI times L. Tapos, meron ka pa rito na B. Tapos, P square root of P over EI times cosine of P over EI times L. ito dapat ay equal to 0. Now, the trick on this solution process ay i-multiply mo both sides by cosine. Na ano tayo? Nabibitin yung radical natin. So, cosine of square root of p over ei times L. So, what we are left with is meron kang b sine squared square root of p over ei times L. Tapos meron ka rito na plus b square root of p over ei times cosine squared p over ei times L. And nawawalan. Teka lang ha. Yun, nakita ko na. Ang kulang sa equation. So, nabitin, nawala yung ano, yung b square root of p over ei. So, meron kang b square root of p over ei dito. So, what we'll get after all that is done here, dugo, no? Na meron kang b times p square root of p over ei na equal to 0. So, b must be equal to 0. So, kung yung b mo ay equal to 0, babalikan mo ngayon itong general solution natin. So, what we found here ay yung b ay equal to 0. So, if x is equals to L, dapat hindi 0 itong a, and rather, ang magiging takeaway natin is cosine of square root of, bibitin yung radical, square root of p over ei times L natin, yung dapat equal to 0. And mangyayari lang yon if square root of p over ei times L natin ay equal to pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, and so on. So what we'll get for P is equal to, so kung ito yung gagamitin natin, makukuha natin na value for P ay square natin both sides. So meron kang pi squared over 2. Tapos meron kang EI dito. Tapos meron kang L squared dito. Bakit 2? 4 dapat to. 4. L squared. And again, ang pwede kong gawin ay ganito. So medyo konting mabilisang tricks lang. So EA over 2 times L over R squared. So hin-highlight ko itong 2 because these 2 right here will be denoted to be your effective length factor. So ito yung effective length factor na sinisigaw nung ating section E2. Itong effective length factor na yon. So yun yung magiging modification mo sa effective length based sa boundary condition. Ngayon sabi daw, saan ko siya makikita? According sa code, you'll find this on chapter C or appendix 7. And I'm still having a hard time finding this. I hope. Oh, chamba. So ito yung table that we can look into determining yung effective length factor. So depende sa boundary condition. So yung natakal natin so far itong D. Yung D ay sinabi na buti denote lang. Saan yung pointer? Walang pointer. Okay. Sige. So yung D, sa taas, meron kang pin na connection which allows rotation but disallows displacement, deflection. Ganon din dito. Pin din ito, disallows displacement but allows rotation. And yung effective length factor, yung theoretical na value niya, na gagamitin natin ay 1. Yung isa pang natakil natin is this one right here. Ito yung E natin. Yung section E. Fixed and free. So sa fixed and free natin, Based nga sa nakuha natin, di ba? Yung pinang-multiply natin doon sa L over R ay 2. So, yun yung K natin. Now, there are other conditions pa. Meron kang pin, tapos meron kang free dito, pero meron pang additional free to deflect, but it restrained yung rotation niya. Hindi siya pwedeng mag-rotate. So, yun yung meaning ng square na block na yan. So, hindi siya pwedeng mag-rotate, pero pwede siyang mag-deflect. So, meron din siyang sariling effective length factor. Meron ka namang fix, tapos free pero hindi pwedeng mag-rotate. So meron kang theoretical K value na equal to 1. So yan yung masosolve mo if you were to find yung particular solution. Tapos meron kang fix dito. Tapos meron kang pinned. So pwedeng rotation pero bawal yung displacement. Bawal yung displacement, bawal yung rotation. So makukuha mo na K ay equal to 0.7. Then lastly, fix and fix. Meron kang makukuha na theoretical K value na equal to 5. So nakalagay naman yung end conditions natin. So ito yung gagamitin natin for K. Pero as we dealt with design procedures, I would ask instructors, instead of using yung theoretical K value, would implore you to use yung recommended design value. So yung recommended design value yung gagamitin nyo as your values for K, not the first rows. So ito yung approximate values for your effective length factor. So doon nanggaling, so hindi naman siya hinugot out of thin air, merong pinaghugutan yan. So yung general solution natin. So nakita naman natin yung overall na tedious process ng derivation. Now that we have yung effective length factor to account for yung different boundary condition, we can focus ourselves back. So yung E, alam na natin na depende sa state of stress. So pwedeng maging tangent modulus yan, depende sa sa stresses na nararanasan ng cross section natin. So meron tayong F sub E ngayon. So yung effective length factor natin, kita natin, iba-iba yung mga suggested na values. Now, meron kasing ginawa na analysis, and sa analysis na yon, what we are checking is yung relationship ng L over R at saka ng F critical. So pinasadahan lang ng multiple na empirical tests over different materials. So different material, different types of steel. So ito yung iba't ibang kulay diyan. Tapos merong L over R kang in-evaluate diyan. Now, ang nangyari is there is a certain portion na exponential yung relationship between L over R at saka nung critical stress natin. So yung critical stress, yung actual na stress na nagkukos ng buckling. Hindi siya yung Euler buckling, but rather yung actual na stress na kinailangan for you to reach yung buckling. And what we'll get is some exponential relationship. Pero past some certain point, lahat yan nagko-converge na linear na lang. So nagko-converge siya into a single line. So medyo dinro ko lang na ganyan. So isang single line na lang yung kailangan mo na stress, yung critical stress mo, regardless of what material you are using, pare-pareho lang yung makukuha mo. And what we have here are two distinct regions. This first region tells us that your buckling is caused by your residual stresses. So parang nagkaroon ng inelasticity within your cross-section, so na-accelerate yung buckling natin ngayon. So this is what's called inelastic buckling. And we kind of take note that yung mga curves natin, nagfa-flatten out siya dito. Nagfa-flatten out siya sa pinakataas, It's primarily because, ayusin ko lang yung kulay. So, nagpa-flatten out siya dito and dun siya nagte-terminate because primarily because eto na yung yield stress niya. So, yan yung naging ceiling nung relationship nila. So, we kinda have some relationship na if maikli yung slenderness niya, ang tawag na nun, so if slenderness is short enough or slenderness ratio is small, then what you'll have, and then the column is considered to be short. So meron tayong short column. Anong meaning kapag short column? So if short column, instead na buckling, ang nangyayari ay crushing. Crushing force yung magiging limit state niya. Yung crushing force na yon is F sub y A cross. So ito yung crushing force natin. So it has to be short enough such that crushing force na yung nararanasan. So if slenderness ratio is small, then the column is considered to be short. But kaya hindi, and napansin naman natin na we're dealing with considerably long na members naman. So if we're talking about how short it is around 1 feet, 2 feet. So hindi naman siya yung typical on your structural elements. So mas mahahaba pa doon yung nilalagay mo na structural elements. So we have that assurance na to the very least hindi crushing yung magiging rather magbabakel talaga siya. And what I mentioned here is meron kang exponential na relationship between slenderness and critical stress, and that is what's called inelastic buckling. So dahil lang sa inelastic buckling. And kaya nagko-converge siya on one line is that because it's free of any inelastic any residual stresses, and ang nagdi-dictate na lang talaga ay yung Euler buckling stress. So this region right here, given na very slender na yung ating beam, meron ka ng elastic buckling ngayon. So within the elastic range na ngayon yung buckling na nangyayari. So hindi pa nagkakaroon ng yielding on your cross section pero nagbuckle na siya because your element is very slender na. Yung buong column mo ay slender na first place. So if we're talking about slenderness, meron tayong na-establish na criterion. So from your or buckling theory, and at the same time yung considering yung mga residual stresses natin, what we have managed to derive is yung limiting slenderness ratio natin. Dalawa ngayon yung i-check natin, whether yung slenderness ratio ay less than this value right here, 4.71 times E over F sub y. Yung E, yung elastic modulus natin. So wag nyo hindi to tangent modulus. So elastic modulus lang as is. Elastic modulus lang. Meron kang F sub y. So ito yung ating yield stress. So i-compare mo, may makukuha kang limiting slenderness ratio dito. Kung less than siya dito, then it will be in elastic buckling. So yung mga exponential equations na nakuha mo rito is represented by this function. So yung critical stress to initiate yung buckling will be equal to 0.658 raised to your yield stress raised to the ratio of your yield stress to your Euler buckling stress. Then whatever this is, yung kalabasan ng exponential na equation, i-multiply mo lang siya with your yield stress. Yun yung magiging critical stress natin. So yun yung kailangan. So para mahanap natin actually kung ano yung Hindi, saka na yun. Balikan na lang natin yan. So meron kasing dito natin na-derive kung gaano kahaba ba, ano yung slenderness na kailangan mo para ma-consider na short yung column natin. If this term right here becomes 1, so ang magiging missing na value na lang natin dito, yung f sub e natin, and yung f sub e natin ay equal dito. So you will ultimately derive kung ano yung slenderness ratio na kailangan mo to cause yung f sub e natin to be equal to cause this whole term right here to be equal to 1. So yun yung thought process niyan. Napasobra ng segue. So focus tayo dun sa pangalawang criterion. So ito ay kung hindi lumagpas sa limiting slenderness ratio. If lumagpas siya sa limiting slenderness ratio, ito ngayon yung magiging critical stress natin. So, it will simply be linearly related to your Euler buckling stress. So, 0.877 times F sub E, that will be your F critical if na-exceed ni slenderness ratio mo yung limiting slenderness ratio natin dito. So, ito yung delineation na yon. So, ito yung 4.71 E over F sub Y. So, these terms right here would represent 0.658 Fy over Fe times Fy. And this part right here is represented by 0.877 F sub E. So, yan yung graphs natin. So, yan yung na-derive from the empirical. Now, ano-ano ngayon yung mga steps natin into analyzing ngayon yung columns. So, consider muna natin na section E3 lang. Wala munang slender elements. So, kunin natin yung effective length. K times L. So, alam natin yung length ng column or length ng member natin subjected under compression. Alam natin yung boundary condition niya. So, fix. Halimbawa, pin. So, meron tayong makukuha na K from Appendix 7. Then, after that, kukunin yung slenderness ratio. And yung slenderness ratio mo, kaya KL max yan. Kasi, pwedeng merong kang effective length factor along X multiplied by the unbraced length along X over your radius of gyration along X. Tapos, meron ka pang effective length factor naman na na-derive along Y. Tapos meron kang meron kang unbraced length along Y. Tapos meron kang R sub Y dito. Bakit ganun? Kasi if we're going to check yung ating cross-section, yung cross-section natin, kung titingnan natin from above, ganito siya. So, pwedeng, yan na lang natin, pin, yan. Tapos meron kang force, pag ganyan. So, pwede siyang mag-buckle to this direction and to this direction. I-zoom out ko lang. Okay. So, pwedeng maging ganito siya. So, babalikan natin yan. Now, ano yung convention natin dito? So, yung convention natin, if ganito yung ating cross-section, this is yung strong axis natin, X. Yan yung magbibigay ng maximum moment of inertia. Ito yung weak axis natin, yung Y. Now, when determining buckling or discussing about buckling, sige, meron tayong dinedefine na plane or axis of buckling. Meron kang axis of buckling, tapos ito yung direction ng bending. If ganito yung cross-section mo, then sinabi na buckling along y-axis, yung nakuha mo because siya yung nagbigay ng may pinakamalaking KL over R natin. So, ito yung maximum natin. So, yung itsura ng buckled shape niya, yung deflection is towards the X. Deflection ay towards the X. So, yun lang yung meaning nun. So, yung axis of buckling mo ay y-axis, pero yung direction ng buckling mo ay, or yung bending due to the buckling ay towards the X. Sundan? I hope na malinaw yung convention natin dito. So, meron tayong axis, meron tayong direction of buckling. So, magmamatter kasi ngayon yung restraints natin. So, halimbawa ay ginawa natin dun sa column natin or sa compressive element, naglagay tayo ng mid-brace na support. So sa mid-brace support, hindi pwedeng mag-deflect yan sa part na yan. So, ang nangyari as a result, yung L mo, yung unbraced length mo, ito na lang. Ito na lang yung unbraced length natin. And yung magiging itsura ng buckling niya ay ganito. Ganyan na yung magiging itsura ng buckling natin. Kung ikukumpara natin on the first case na wala ito, so isang buo siya, malaki yung length, and kung malaki yung length, lalaki yung ating slenderness ratio, and kung malaki yung ating slenderness ratio, mas maliit yung force na kailangan natin to cause it to buckle. Pero this time, dahil mas konti na yung mas maliit na yung natin. Shopee ba yan, sir? Hindi naman. Deliver ng tubig yun kanina. Okay. So, saan na tayo? Dami nating So, dahil umikli yung length, bumaba yung slenderness ratio natin, kinailangan pa natin ngayon ng mas malakas na force to initiate yung buckling. So, kaya naglalagay ng mid-brace support para mapababa natin yung unbraced length para mapataas naman natin yung compressive strength ng element natin. So, pwede kasi na on this particular condition, so pag sinabi na ito yung view ng YY prime axis natin, kasi ito yung view niya na yung parallel to the page ay yung y-axis natin. So, pwede magkaiba yung conditions mo sa along x. So, naging pin-pin naman yung along x natin. So, ito yung x prime natin. So, yung view na tinitingnan natin ay ganito. So, ito yung x-axis. Ito yung y-axis natin. So, if we want to define yung nito, so meron kang length, this is LX, this is LY. Tapos kailangan mo meron ka pang makukuhang KX dito, tapos meron ka ring makukuhang KY dito. So, very complicated siya. And meron kang RX na gagamitin dito, may RY ka na gagamitin dito. So, magkaiba yung slenderness ratio niya, yung KL over R. So, kapag nagva-vary yung conditions, evaluate all of them, then get the maximum. So, yun yung KL over R max natin. And kapag nakuha natin yung KL over R max natin, yun yung gagamitin natin para makuha yung Euler buckling stress. And kapag nakuha natin yung Euler buckling stress, steady lang siya dyan. Check natin kung saan natin siya gagamitin. Evaluate muna natin yung limiting slenderness ratio natin. We need to make sure na ito ay hindi lalagpas doon sa yung KL over R mo ay hindi lalagpas dito. Pag hindi lalagpas dito, ito yung gagamitin mo. Pag lumagpas siya, ito yung gagamitin natin to get yung critical stress. Then after that, para makuha yung compression capacity natin, so mayroon kang F critical, mayroon kang A gross, mayroon kang under strength factor na 0.9, we have the compression capacity. Okay. So meron tayong ganyan. So questions? At this point, we'll have a little break. kung meron kayong questions, feel free to ask them habang naka-break tayo. Pa-send daw ng notes. Sige, sige, sige. Okay. Now, hmm, hmm, balik tayo sa sharing ng screen. So, nagmamatter na rin kasi down the line na, okay, what we have discussed so far, paano kung yung member na under compression natin ay meron lang restraints at the ends. But the reality is that yung ating mga compressive na elements natin, so yung mga under compression, ay instead na nasa support sila naka-rest, pwedeng yung ends nila ay intersection with other structural members. Just like this one. Now, we have uh, we have this column right here. Wala namang fix or pin na support dito. Wala naman fix or pin na support dito. So, hindi natin magagamit yung table sa pagkuha ng K. But rather, what this is telling us about is meron kang node, dalawang end nodes, and yung bawat end nodes na to, meron tayong kailangang i-evaluate na tinatawag na rigidity. So, depende sa rigidity ng nodes ngayon, so on this new paradigm, depende sa rigidity ng nodes natin na ma-define, doon natin makukuha kung ano yung effective length factor. So, meron kang beams na nakakonect onto the point. Meron kang columns na nakakonect onto the point. So, we need to define yung rigidity. So, for example, we have this one right here. Ano yung rigidity niya? So, yun yung gusto nating itanong dito. So, ito na yung magiging panibagong effective, parang kailangan natin i-tackle under effective length factors. And yung effective length factors natin, so kung mag-browse ka lang ng konti, ay ma-account for na natin siya through what's called alignment charts. Yung alignment charts natin is divided into two. So we have unbrace and brace. So what you're seeing here right now is the result of this is for brace frame. So kung yung column mo ay brace or it is part of a brace frame, ito yung gagamitin natin na alignment charts. Yung alignment charts na yon is derived by evaluating yung rigidity ng dalawang end nodes niya, si node A and si node B. So, ganyan natin siya dinedenote. So, may ma-evaluate tayo na rigidity dyan, may ma-evaluate tayo for both A and B, and then we use this equation right here to ultimately define ano yung value ni K. So, pag sinabi natin na brace, hindi natin pine-permit yung side sway. So side sway inhibited frame. So, to further push yung point, ganito yung itsura ng side sway inhibited. So, wala tayong pointer. So, hindi siya yung point A and yung point B mo ay hindi nag-move to the side. Compared to that with side sway uninhibited. So nagkaroon ka ngayon ng excessive na lateral deflection. So dito, meron na tayong tinatawag na second order effect. Kasi nagbago na yung orientation ng ating member, and dahil nagbago na yung orientation ng ating member dahil sa lateral displacement, magkakaroon ka ngayon ng extra na moment. Apart dun sa buckled shape mo, meron ka pang i-consider na P times delta na additional na moment natin. So yun yung side sway uninhibited. So magkaiba yung analysis nito dun sa side sway uninhibited side sway inhibited na frames. So yun yung uh, ano natin, kailangang establish. Now, bago natin syempre i-discuss yung alignment charts, ito yung ating rigidity. So yung rigidity natin is we need to evaluate yung EI over L. So yung flexural stiffness. So iba yung flexural rigidity. Pag flexural rigidity, yun yung EI. Pag flexural stiffness, ito yung EI over L. So you have the sum of the flexural stiffness ng columns natin divided by the sum of the flexural stiffness ng beams natin, yung G na yan, or girders. That pertains to all, so pag sinabi natin na column, suppose point A, so yung nakakonect kay point A, si C1 at saka si C2. So yun yung kailangan natin kunan ng EI over L. So si point A din, nakakonect naman sa kanya si beam 1 at saka si beam 2. So si B1 and si B2. Kailangan mong kunan ng EI over L yan. That is to get yung rigidity at point A. So ipa-plug in lang natin dito and we'll have a value of G. And sometimes, dito na rin natin in-account for in advance yung stiffness reduction factor natin, yung residual stresses natin. So yung ilang column mo can be your tangent modulus. So yung tangent modulus natin is the stiffness reduction factor multiplied by your elastic modulus. So meron tayong makukuhang G for the first point, which is point A. Tapos repeat the same process for point B. Pero you're also wondering, sir, paano kung yung isa, yung point A or yung point B ko, ay support? Hindi naman siya connected to, hindi naman siya parang point of intersection ng mga structural elements ko. Kung fixed na support, yung isa, halimbawa si point B ay fixed to support, yung G ko ay automatic equal to 1. Kung pin na support naman siya, yung G doon ay magiging equal to 10. Kung free end naman, halimbawa itong si point A, kung free end siya, yung value ng G ay infinity. So ayan, nag-account for na tayo ng infinity dyan. And once you get yung value ng rigidity ko at point A and rigidity ko at point B, ipa-plot mo lang siya ng ganito. So halimbawa, nakuha ko 1 for GA. Tapos nakuha ko for B, 0.7. Gagawa lang ako ng straight line that will connect yung 1 dun sa 0.7 ko. And kung saan nag-intersect yung line dun sa K na graph na na axis natin, yun yung magsasabi kung ano yung effective length factor na gagamitin ko for that photo. And similarly, ganun din for side sway uninhibited. So mapapansin natin doon sa side sway uninhibited, yung K mo is always greater than 1. For side sway inhibited, yung K mo ay less than 1. So yun yung key difference between the two. And there was one time na nagkaroon ng debate kasi na, okay, how can we say na side sway inhibited or side sway uninhibited? So paano ko masasabi daw kung brace or unbrace yung structural frame ko? Dati, ang naging resolution ay as a whole daw tignan kung brace or unbrace yung system natin. But what we eventually have uncovered is actually you need to look into this locally. So per floor yung pagtingin natin kung brace or unbrace. So kung pine-prevent mo yung side sway, so meron kang mga gantong element na as in super rigid, dinidisallow mo yung movement along the lateral. So katulad din nito, movement along the lateral, may pumipigil sa kanya. Pero halimbawa, dito sa taas, yung movement along the lateral, wala naman pumipigil sa kanya at all. So this one will be an unbraced frame, and these ones, so yung part ng story na to, will be brace frames right there. And some literatures even suggest na magkaroon ng multipliers for the rigidity. So, kung fire end daw ng girder ay pinned, so halimbawa ay ganito, kailangan mo i-multiply pa by 1.5 yung rigidity mo. Kung halimbawa daw naka-fix against rotation, yung yung far end ng girder mo. So halimbawa ay may shear wall ka na pagka massive na dinidisallow any rotation and displacement, so mag-assign daw by 2. Kung side sway prevented. Kung inhibited naman, baliktad. So kailangan mo mag-multiply by a value less than 1. So ito ay for general purposes. Pero ito ay galing sa sa isang reference book lang. Depende kung sinong instructor yung gumawa, kung ito yung gagamitin. So we might as well stick dun sa walang multiplier. So ito ay suggestion lang, itong mga multiplier na to. Again, ito yung isang source natin ng effective length factor, yung table natin na nakita on appendix, commentary C. Then ganito yung paggamit ng natin, ng alignment charts natin. So again, once you get yung rigidity ng dalawang points natin, draw a line connecting both points, and kung saan nag-intersect siya dun sa K na axis natin, yun yung magiging effective length factor natin. So ito ay ganito. Yep. So ganyan natin siya makukuha. So I leave muna yung discussion at this point. Kasi alam ko medyo marami tayong kailangang i-process ngayon. Ang dami na natin kailangan malaman. Yung K, kailangan na nating makuha yung Euler buckling stress. Tapos na information overload din tayo, I suppose, dito sa natin, sa derivation ng Euler buckling stresses natin. So, we'll continue this discussion after Holy Week. So, many good luck talaga sa inyo this coming Holy Week. And ano pa ba? Wala namang tanong na, no? So mukhang magre-ready na sa 18 yung mga nagsisi-18 din ngayon. So good luck sa ating lahat. I'll be sending yung recording nitong presentation sa inyo later on. Naging available na. So have an excellent rest of your day today. So thank you sa pag-attend.